Probably the biblical parable about the cities, Sodom and Gomorrah, destroyed by God with fire and brimstone for the sinful behavior of their inhabitants, is known to everyone. The inhabitants of the two cities indulged in debauchery were distinguished by cruelty, evil disposition, promiscuity, for which they were punished. The fact that the legendary cities really existed is evidenced by cuneiform texts found by archaeologists. However, until now, scientists have not been able to find traces of ancient cities, and disputes about the causes of their death have not subsided to this day. In the 2nd millennium BC, Sodom and Gomorrah, according to the Old Testament, were located on the shore of the Dead Sea, formerly called Sodom. The cities were flourishing and rich, and their inhabitants led an idle lifestyle and wallowed in sins and vices. As a punishment, God decided to destroy the cities along with their inhabitants. Abraham asked to spare Sodom and Gomorrah for the sake of the innocent righteous, but it turned out that only Lot and his wife and 2 daughters were such. The angels led them out of the city, forbidding them to look back at it. Lot's wife disobeyed and turned into a pillar of salt. After all, looking back means regretting living in a sinful environment. The first mentions of Sodom and Gomorrah are in the book of Genesis, which is part of the Old Testament. According to it, the area of the so-called Sodom Pentateuch, which in addition to the 2 mentioned included the cities of Admah, Seboim, and Zoar, was located in the southeastern part of the Canaanite lands near the southern coast of the Dead Sea. It was prestigious to live in the rich lands of Sodom, so Abraham's nephew Lot settled in Sodom and created a family there. However, wealth has spoiled the inhabitants of this rich region. They stopped behaving properly, turning into evil and sinful people. The behavior of the Sodomites so exceeded all bounds of decency that the Lord decided to punish them demonstratively by destroying both the cities and all their inhabitants. But on the eve of the alleged destruction, the Almighty decided to make a final warning. At the oak grove of Mamre, He appeared to Abraham in the form of 3 men and told about the impending punishment. Long negotiations and entreaties somewhat shook the determination of the Almighty, and He agreed to save the cities if there were at least 12 righteous people in them. To check their presence, 2 angels came to Sodom under the guise of travelers. Abraham's nephew Lot, who was sitting at the Sodom gate, got up and bowed to the travelers, after which he invited them to his house so that they could clean themselves up, eat and spend the night in peace. The angels initially began to refuse the invitation, arguing that they would be able to spend the night on the street, but Lot was adamant. The travelers agreed, and went to the house, where the owner baked tortillas and fed the guests. They didn't even have time to go to bed when Lot's house was surrounded by a raging crowd of citizens. It was those who arrived in the city who were needed. Seeing how events were unfolding, the angels revealed themselves to Lot, telling him who they were, and for what purpose they had come to Sodom. After that, they struck all the townspeople raging at Lot's house with blindness, which temporarily saved the house from destruction. The angels advised the owner himself to leave the city urgently, taking his family members with him. Despite the fact that these cities are mentioned in some ancient sources, in particular in Strabo's geography and Tacitus' history, many scientists question the historical authenticity of their existence. British scientist Michael Sanders, on the contrary, is sure that Sodom and Gomorrah were indeed destroyed and rest at the bottom of the Dead Sea. Most of the versions and disputes are caused by the causes of the death of cities. According to one of the scientific hypotheses, Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed by the fall of an asteroid. This version appeared as a result of deciphering the records of a Sumerian astronomer who described in detail the movement of a huge white ball across the firmament. Some scientists are sure that destructive processes of this scale could only occur as a result of a collision with an asteroid. The probable cause of the disappearance of ancient cities seems to many scientists to be a powerful earthquake. The cities were built at the site of a fracture of the Earth's crust, at the junction of the tectonic layers, in one of the most seismically active zones of the planet. In addition, there are methane deposits in the Dead Sea area. The earthquake could have been accompanied by the release of flammable gases and bitumen, which provoked a fire. And bitumen in this area is characterized by a high sulfur content, hence the biblical fire and brimstone. Some scientists suggest that at the end of the 3rd millennium BC, a natural disaster occurred in this area, which became part of a global cataclysm. Climatic conditions deteriorated sharply, fertile lands dried up. Sudden climate change could have been triggered by the release of a huge amount of dust into the atmosphere, which again indicates a collision with a meteorite. The exact location of the city has not yet been established, although, according to the Bible, the city was located on the southeastern border of the Canaanite land. But today scientists are closer to solving the mystery than ever. American archaeologists claim that they were not located at all where it is commonly believed. Archaeologists have examined the remains of ancient ceramic dishes found in the town of Tel el-Hammam in Jordan to the northeast of the Dead Sea, and found something strange on them. Radiocarbon analysis showed that each of the pieces of ceramics is dotted with microscopic crystals of various minerals. They seem to have stuck together under the influence of high temperatures. This could happen only under one condition: there was a powerful explosion. In addition, scientists have found the ruins of a fortress wall about 3,700 years old. The bricks from it were scattered in a strange way. It turned out that the wall was literally swept away in a matter of seconds. At a scientific conference in Colorado, archaeologists said that, most likely, the settlements located here about 4,000 years ago were destroyed by a meteorite. This explains the increased sulfur content in the Dead Sea and coastal soil. In addition, the proposed version, according to scientists, more or less fits the biblical description of the death of Sodom and Gomorrah, as in the literal sense of heavenly punishment. A team of archaeologists led by Philip Silver is looking for Sodom and Gomorrah not at all in the south of the Dead Sea, according to the prevailing version in science, but in the town of Tel el-Hammam. The fact is that the book of Genesis says that Lot came to Sodom through the valley of Kikar, where the Jordan flows into the Salt Lake. Lot lifted up his eyes and saw the whole neighborhood of Jordan, that before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, it was watered with water all the way to Zoar, like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt. According to scientists, the entire Jordan Valley and the Dead Sea can only be seen from the mountains in the vicinity of the modern Jordanian city of Madaba. Archaeologist Stephen Collins says, the fact that Sodom and Gomorrah were located in the northeastern part of the Dead Sea is evidenced by another fact. For 700 years, about 3,000 years ago, the Kikar Valley was completely lifeless. Most likely, this was due to the destruction of the biblical cities. According to the scientist, the ruins of ancient cities found in Tel el-Hammam testify in favor of this version. However, it is too early to say about the final solution of one of the main biblical mysteries. Research continues, and probably in the near future we will find out the truth.